Among the questions that were asked were a few people who wanted the important verses from the Bhagavad Gita that can transform their lives. So here are 7 verses that are very important from the Bhagavad Gita and that can have a great impact on our lives. The first 2 are verses 48 and 50 from the second chapter of the Gita, which speak of 48 says Samatvam Yoga Uchyate, meaning equanimity of mind, peace of mind is yoga. And verse 50 says Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. Yoga is dexterity of action, perfection of action. So this combination of a perfectly tranquil mind coupled with dynamic activity is very rare. When the mind is calm, like on a Sunday morning, you are disinclined to activity. And on Monday morning, when you start activity, you lose your peace of mind. It is this combination that makes for yoga, that makes for excellence. So how does it work? The mind is calm because it is dedicated to a higher ideal. Let's say a tennis player is just dedicated to tennis. Then it's not about whether he wins or loses. He just wants to go out there and play the best tennis. So he's playing the best tennis, there is frenetic activity, there is fast activity, but his mind is absolutely calm. This is what the Bhagavad Gita speaks of. Now, how do you get there is the question. So the first thing that you need to understand is that you have to identify your strengths and work out of your strengths, which is your swadharma, your passion in life, your unique talent in life. Identify that because the 3rd chapter of the Gita, verse 35 says, it is better dying in your swadharma. Paradharma means a field alien to your nature is very frightening. Then comes the attitude with which we work. The 10th verse of chapter 3 is a fascinating verse. It says, and it puts it dramatically, it says, when the Creator created the human being was created sahayajna, means along with the capacity to sacrifice, which is denied to all other creatures. And then he says, with this may you prosper. Means without the spirit of service and sacrifice, it is impossible to prosper. And all of us are trying to prosper without sacrifice. And then he says, let this be the Kamadhenu of all your desires. Kamadhenu is the mythological cow that resides in heaven that fulfills all your desires. Now don't go in search of Kamadhenu. Here he says, sacrifice is Kamadhenu. And it is so true. When you work in a spirit of service and sacrifice for a higher cause, your desires get automatically fulfilled. Then verse 30 of chapter 3 spells out the prescription for perfect action. What makes for perfect action? It's the 6-point path to perfect action. It's divided into 2 sections. One, how to generate energy within yourself. The other is how not to dissipate the energy that you have created. How do you create energy? 3 methods. Intellect must direct all your activities towards the goal that you fixed for yourself. When light is focused to one point, it burns the paper. In a convex lens, and you hold a piece of paper at the right distance, the paper burns. Without the convex lens, nothing happens to the paper. So when the intellect directs all your thoughts and activities to one point, there is power. Second, you must surrender to the goal. You must feel for it, love it. When an ordinary employee goes to the boss to ask for a personal favor, he's very tentative, diffident, he doesn't want to go. He feels, what if the boss says no? But when the same man is elected union leader the following week, now how does he go to the boss? With confidence. What gives him the confidence? Because he has surrendered his mind to the cause of 300 employees. Similarly, you surrender to a higher cause. The higher the cause that you surrender to, the greater is your power and energy. And third, the body must act dynamically. The body is a machine that is designed for activity. If you laze the whole day, you feel tired. You go out and exercise, you feel energetic. This energy that you've generated dissipates in unproductive channels of past worry, future anxiety, present action. This is stark in sport. In cricket, a batsman plays brilliantly till he hits 90. At 90, his attention shifts from the ball to the past. How many times I've come up to 90 and gotten out? To the future, I must get this century, otherwise I'll be dropped from the team. What happens? He makes mistakes and he's out. Same thing happens to us. So this is the 6-point path to perfect action. Then comes love, bhakti. Bhakti is not swearing love to a God that you don't know, that you cannot know. When you are disliking people around you. So in the 12th chapter of the Gita, verse 13, where he gives the 35 qualities of a bhakta, the very first quality he says, Adveshta sarva bhutanam, one who hates no being. And that is bhakti. How do you not hate anyone is the question. When you understand that everyone functions according to their nature. Everyone is a manifestation of God, is a creation of God. So if I claim to love God, I must love His creations. And as you get to expanding your circle of love, your bhakti increases. Your love for fellow beings converts to love for God. Radha and Krishna are known to be extremely close to each other. And eventually when Krishna had to leave and go away, Radha is heartbroken. She asks Krishna, what will I do without you? Krishna says, see me in all living beings and you will never miss me. And this is bhakti. Then comes knowledge. What is knowledge? Knowledge is given out in various verses. But chapter 18 verse 49 says, one whose intellect is detached everywhere, who has subdued himself, is free from desire. Such a one attains the supreme perfection of freedom from action by renunciation. So, asakta buddhi means detachment from the world. And how can you get detached from the world? By attaching yourself to the spirit that we spoke of earlier. Then comes the state of sthita prajna, a realized person. Who is a realized person? Arjuna asks in verse 54 of chapter 2. And the answer given by Krishna in the following verse is amazing. So he gives two conditions. One who has completely abandoned all desires from the mind. And the second qualification is as a result of being fulfilled in the self by the self. So the formula is human being minus desire equals God. The entire spiritual path is about dealing with desires. You begin by using the intellect to direct your desires properly, to manage your desires. That gives you tremendous relief. Next, through the spiritual pathways of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga, you reduce the number of desires. Through Karma Yoga, you reduce number of desires. Bhakti Yoga, you change the quality of desires. And Jnana Yoga, you change the direction of desires. Then you're left with only a handful of desires. You're withdrawn from the world. All that you want is to serve your Guru, to do good to the world, and get to the state of Godhood. At that stage, you are fit for meditation. You become meditative by nature. You get to the state of open-eyed meditation where you're transacting with the world, you're interacting with everyone, but your thought is on Atman, the self. It's like two people who fall in love. they may go their separate ways. Both of them are at work, they're doing different things, they're with their families, but their thought is always with each other. And that is where you're fit for meditation. Such a person who just slides into meditation, and finally the last traces of desire vanish, the human being becomes God. This is the state of realization. Just following these verses is not enough. You have to constantly keep in touch. And for those of you who are serious about your development, we have online Bhagavad Gita classes every Saturday evening, Indian Standard Time, 6 to 7:15 p.m. It's free for everyone. So if you're interested, please ask for the details or visit our website or join our community, and you can avail of this most priceless knowledge to take you from an ordinary human being to that extraordinary state of infinity. Thank you.